Hi, I'm Lisa and today I'm doing a video with Andertons Music and Craig from TC Helicon, who's come to show us something new and exciting.
Yeah, today we've got VoiceLive Touch 2. So a couple of years ago we came out with VoiceLive Touch 1 and it was a really successful product for us. And so we decided to do another version of it and kind of upgrade everything and make it all sort of tickety-boo. The first thing you'll notice obviously is that there's a great big screen on here, and the first one had a smaller display. It was a little more difficult to edit on, so we addressed that right away. That was something people all asked for right off the top. Okay. We've added the hit feature from VoiceLive Play and VoiceLive Play GTX, which was also really popular. It's just a way of adding effects on top of other effects, so you can kind of have an A and a B within your presets. Really cool there. Got way expanded looping, all sorts of editing that you can get into, and that's kind of deep down in the box, so we'll kind of save that a little bit for later. But I figured you and I could kind of just go through the box from the top and just sort of start from the preset level, which is right at the top here. Do you want to kind of check it out?
Cool. Right, let's play with this.
So of course, everything that you use here, everything you control is with the little slider we've got going on, which is kind of fun. You can wing presets, you know, make it zoom really far in one direction or the other. And there's actually some other fun stuff we can do with the slider bar. But essentially, you can use it to find the preset that you're looking for. So that's usually the way most users start, you know, is they just start singing, start saying something into the mic and say, oh, I like that sound, and they pick a preset. So why don't we kind of zoom around here and see if we can find a preset that you like.
Let's find a song I know.
Yeah, a song you know. There we go.
Oh.
Do you know that one?
The script.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. Break even. Okay. Cool.
I know this song.
So once we know the tune, one of the cool things we can do is we can use the favorite buttons here to save this preset to one of these 9 buttons that are right down below the screen here. So it's kind of like a radio station on your car, you know, where you just set the station and then you can go back to it whenever you want. So if I press and hold the button here, it says, you know, do I want to confirm it? I say, yep, I store it. And now I can go to any other preset in the box down at 30 here, and I just hit this little button here. It takes me right back to the one I was at. So it's kind of neat to be able to do a set list that way, or, you know, any just group of songs that you want to sing. So it's kind of cool that way. So break even. Okay, I think I know the chords for that one. Do you want to give it a shot?
Okay.
Yeah? Okay, cool. Let me get my guitar. Cool. So I'm pretty sure that it's like an E. Sound about right?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, cool. So what we can get you to do actually is when I start playing here, we can sort of start figuring out the tempo of it, and then once we figured it out, you can tap in the tap tempo down there on the tap tempo button, and that'll lock everything into the right tempo for, you know, delays and echoes and all that kind of stuff.
Whilst we're playing through, I'll just...
Yeah, exactly. So let's try and sort of suss out how it's going to feel here. So.
Still alive, but I'm barely breathing.
Feels about right.
Just praying to a God that I don't believe in. Well, I got time while she's got freedom. And when a heart breaks, no, it don't break even.
So what we'll do is we'll cheat a little bit here, and I'll show you something. I can, in my headphones, put a metronome that I can listen to that's at the tempo of the song that we're playing. And I'll just show it to the audience at home here for 1 sec. So we'll go over here, and we'll set my output to all. So now you can actually hear that there's a kick drum that's going in my head all the time. And I'll take it away so that you guys don't have to listen to it the whole time. But that allows me to have this tap tempo going. So we'll build something up a little bit later on, and we'll make sure the tempo is exactly the same. So it's all going to be locked in.
Sounds good.
So why don't we give a try to the mic control button on the top there, which replicates the hit feature, and that's going to bring in and out some harmonies. So we can do another verse of the song, and then you can add in some harmony.
Okay.
Cool. So now I can hear my tempo, so I'll tap along to it.
Still alive, but I'm barely breathing. Just praying to a God that I don't believe in. And I got time while she got freedom. And when a heart breaks, no, it don't break even.
So isn't that great? So what it's doing is you'll notice that down in the corner here, when I was playing the chords, you see when I play, that little NP flashes up, and what that's doing is it's actually listening to the chord from the guitar and saying, oh, okay, I know that chord, it's in this key, and I'm listening to the input note that you're singing. Ah, this is the harmony that it should create, and that's why the harmonies were accurate along there. So it's really fun to do. So we've got our guitar part going on the loop, and I'm going to try and add some bass, but I'm going to use my voice with it, so I've got some tuning going on, and also some rhythmic that's actually going to pulse the low notes that I'm singing in time with the loop that I've already recorded. So we'll start up the loop here, we'll get it going. And then I'll start working out this bass, so you'll hear my voice all low. All right, so let's see if we can get this. that ends up coming right around again. We can use that, right? There's a little skip in there, but that was my own fault. Cool, so I'll stop the loop now, and we'll think about maybe adding in a bit of a beat in the background. It's a pretty slow tune, so I'll try and beatbox something out that isn't too terrible. Okay. So I'm going to use a beatbox style actually here that we normally have our tone sort of feature in here that does EQing and compression and all that on your mic. But for the beatbox selection in the transducer, we actually turn all that stuff off, and that allows you to get the low end. Because oftentimes the beatboxer guys, they want to get a real sort of thumpy bass coming out, so we don't want to cut off all the low end that we would normally roll off in a vocalist performance. Okay. So I've got that selected here, and we'll start up the loop again. So then it just runs in the background, right? So now if we start singing and playing, I'll give you the mic back here and we'll try again. So I'll stop the loop again. So let's get set up here, and then you can do some singing along, and we'll see how it's kind of fun to have the little bit of a backing track there.
Okay, so it's that one to get back to.
Yeah, so go right back to number 9 there. That's the one we chose. Perfect, yeah. Okay. So I'll start do some guitar again, then I'll bring in the loop part way through, so it'll be kind of neat. We can kind of just have it come in as we go. So.
Still alive, but I'm barely breathing. Just pray to a God that I don't believe in. And I got time while she's got freedom. And when a heart breaks, no, it don't break even. The best days could be some of my worst. She finally met a man who's gonna put her first. While she's wide awake, I've no trouble sleeping. Oh, when a heart breaks, no, it don't break even.
Kind of stopped the loop a little bit prematurely there, but that's okay. Cool, so that kind of shows sort of where you can go with some really basic stuff with the looping, you know, nothing too crazy, but often, you know, guys who sing and play guitar, they got a regular gig, you can actually use this looping stuff in your normal show, and it's not super electronic-y or crazy, it just kind of really helps to give you a solid foundation that you can work from. I've even messed around with doing like blues progressions and adding horns with my mouth and that kind of stuff, you know, doing harmonies on a mouth trumpet and that kind of thing, so it's really neat. Why don't we take a look now at some of the looping. We can go into the loop menu here, and I can show you some of the filtering and the things you can do on the loop that are really neat. And we'll use the existing loop that we've got. So if we get it playing here, I'm going to use the filter bar here, the slider effects, to do some filtering. So you can listen here like. So if you want to kind of fade out your loop, you know, and get it to change the feel. And then you can just stop it right at the end. You know, it's a good way of getting out of a song, something like that. And you can change what happens on the slider effects bar here by just pressing and holding the loop button and then tapping the slider effects bar here. So let's try a slow down. That's kind of fun too. So you slow it way down. And you can basically take it down to nothing, which is really neat. And then there's a stutter feature, which is really fun as well. It's like a squeeze. So if you hit it on the beat, it'll repeat there. So you can do that right on the beat as it comes along, which is really fun. So the same way that the slider effects bar works within the looping here, which is really cool, and you've got 6 tracks of looping that you can use, or up to 6 tracks. That sort of got a full memory that you can use, but as you use more of that memory, the number of tracks available to you reduces. Okay. So if you make an initial loop that's really long, you might only end up with a couple of tracks. If you make it a little shorter, you can have a bunch of tracks you can play with. You can mute them all independently and turn them all on and off, which is really fun. If we go to the effects screen here, which is where you'd start sort of basic editing of your effects, you can see how when we use the hit button like you were using in the song there, that harmony that you were having actually comes on, and you can see it light up, and you say, okay, that harmony is associated with the hit button. There's also something else that's associated with this preset, and down here it says gender warp. So that's actually a warping of the gender of your voice as you're singing. So if you want to sing into the microphone or just say something in the microphone, we'll warp your gender.
Hi, hi, hi,
Hi, hi.
hi.
So you can actually do that in real time, right? Which is really quite fun. So, you know, you can do the whole thing where you have a conversation between a guy and a girl by going back and forth, you know, with the different genders. You never call me anymore. Come on, baby. That kind of thing, which is really cool. And there's about 10 different effects that you can get at with the slider effects bar. So we can try some stuff like let's see, let's go into shifting. That's actually quite a crazy one. So if we wanted to play that over top of the loop, so then we could do some shifting if you want to sing the song.
I'm still alive, but I'm barely breathing.
Then we'll really mess it up.
Just pray to God that I don't believe it.
So you can really do some crazy stuff with that. I actually like to use the Rhythmic feature and do some stuff with the shifter, which is pretty fun. It gives you sort of this computery old, like 80s kind of Amiga sound, which is really great. So once you get into this kind of stuff, you can really start doing some of the more sort of obvious effects, you know. And some people will use it more sort of deeply. If you're doing a lot of beatboxy, you know, rhythmic, rappy type stuff, that stuff is really great for it. If you're doing something a bit more, we'd call it conservative, I guess. There's some stuff in here for, like, say, just bending the harmonies in the background, so that when you're singing, you can actually scoop up the notes of the harmony. And so if you were to sing, let's try doing that part again. So play with as you're singing, see if you can just slide your finger around there.
Still alive, but I'm barely breathing.
And just slide your finger around as you sing.
Just praying to a God that I don't believe.
So you can hear that harmony.
That's incredibly off-putting.
Yeah. So you can hear the harmony messing around in the background, and what you can do is you can actually make it slightly scoop up into notes. It's sort of a more subtle approach. So instead of, you know, doing a huge movement, you might just do a little bit of a movement just to sort of have them kind of glissando into the note, you know, and just sort of, as they come in, which is sort of neat.
Okay.
So once you get to this point, you can say, okay, well, how do I assign effects to the hit button? You know, we've obviously seen the harmonies are coming on and off with this hit, but say you wanted to add some doubling at the same time. You literally just go and you say, doubling while the hit is on, perfect, already set. So now the doubling comes on and off. If you said I want doubling all the time, you would just turn the doubling on during both phases here, and now you have the doubling all the time.
Okay.
So it's really easy to actually build in the effects that you like. You know,
you can save all of.
Absolutely, yeah. So once you've made your choices and you've done whatever you want to do, you just hit the store button. You can rename it, do whatever you like there, and then hit the store button again, and it'll save it permanently. And that's actually a benefit from, or an expansion from the original one, was that the original Touch had 25 user presets that you could modify. They were called favorites, and had a couple of hundred factory presets that you couldn't modify. This thing has up to 300 presets in the box, and you can modify every single one of them. So it's got a little bit more depth there to get into. And really, the only thing we haven't looked at so far, other than all the crazy stuff, is you can get down into some deeper edit menus. So if you're wanting to manipulate what types of harmonies are happening, you know, you can go through, and it actually shows you in some relatively convenient little pictures here, you know, the type of harmony, high or lower, high and low. You know, our little renderings here, I think that guy looks like the guy from Green Day with his little tie there. And then, of course, some choirs and all sorts of stuff like that. But you can make your changes in here to the effect that you like, and then you can still save, you know, whatever you like. And if you want to go deeper than that and sort of get more into the VoiceLive 2 kind of land, which is a bit deeper in terms of editing, you can actually hit edit again and go into an advanced screen here that lets you do a lot more to each one of the presets. Okay. So we kind of treat it as the sort of the 3 levels, right? You're going to start at the home screen, you're going to pick a preset you like, you're going to use the hit button to come on and off. Then you say, okay, no, I want to edit that preset. I want to get in and actually do something a little more funky with it. So you go into here and do the sort of more graphical editing. And then you say, no, I'm a power user. I want to go right down and dig down into, you know, the doubling or whatever it is, and change lead levels and panning and all sorts of stuff like that. So it really does go quite deep if you want it to, but it's great because you can start off quite easily with just picking a preset and singing, which is really fun. I mean, like you and I did, we sort of rehearsed for 35 seconds before we started going here.
It's nice to be able to, like, if you find something that you like, to actually be able to go in there and like change a little bit. So
for sure,
I think with a lot of stuff, you have to either completely start from scratch and know everything about building it up, or use what's already there for you.
Exactly.
So it's quite nice that you can.
For sure.
Little bits.
And as you're editing, it's kind of the way that we expect people to be able to learn how to use the box as well, because, you know, it's something where you might understand what a reverb is, but you don't necessarily know what kinds of reverb you like. And then after a while you see, oh, okay, these hall reverbs are the ones I tend to gravitate towards. So when you start thinking about building your own preset later on, you'll say, okay, I'll start with a hall reverb and then I'll modify it from there. And I like this type of doubling and that type of harmony, and you can really start, you know, doing your own presets.
Right, so we know that this is a new product. How new is it? When
it is brand spanking new. I mean, obviously we're revealing it today, but it will be available.
Okay, so it's not out at all?
It's not out at all. No, we're breaking open the boxes as we speak. So it'll be available very, very shortly in the UK.
Okay, and price?
£6 million, I think, was. We only need to sell one. That's the whole point. You know, it's just we just sell one.
Reasonable, I think.
I think it's under £500 is what we're shooting for. Yeah.
Cool. And what, like, what parts actually come with it? 'Cause we've
Oh,
got-
sure. Well, you get me and you with private lessons, obviously included.
Okay.
Yeah. You get the unit itself. You get the power source, and you get some nifty little Velcro straps to make all your cables nice and neat along your mic stand.
Well, that's worth £500.
At least,
on its
yeah.
own.
Actually, the form factor of this thing is so cool to be able to just clip it on the mic stand wherever you go. It's really neat to have it kind of right at your fingertips there. So that's a great way to go about having a vocal unit on stage.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, thank you very much for coming along. And
Hey,
teaching me
thanks
all
for
about
having
this.
me.
For more information on the product, check out andertons.co.uk. Cheers, guys.